Oh no, not again. So that right there is absolutely not what you're supposed to do if another dog runs over to you and your dog on a walk. What you should do is what we're going to talk about now. Bay, come on. Good girl. It's really, really important that you just come to the realization that you cannot and will not be able to control other people's dogs. So don't get yourself upset. Don't get yourself all annoyed about it when other people's dogs come over, because at the end of the day, this kind of thing is just going to happen. If you're going to a place where there's going to be other dogs, you are going to have this happen to you at some point. Now, this is why it's super, super important that you make sure that you have the highest level of control over your own dog. So your dog knows exactly what they need to be doing. So if it's off lead, they're coming back to you. If it's on lead, they're walking by your side. And then secondary to that, you want to make sure that your dog is fairly okay with other dogs coming into their space. If you've got a dog that's super, super antisocial, you have a dog that's going to be aggressive, you have a dog that's going to have a really hard time if another dog runs over to them, well, then you need to work on those behavioral issues with your dog. You need to seek the help of a trainer, and you need to start trying to fix that stuff before you start putting your dog in these situations where dogs are going to run over, because like I said just now, it's inevitable. Because the truth is, even if you've got really good obedience and your dogs do just genuinely want to hang out with you, you're gonna have these other dogs running over to you. And because it's out of your control, it's just really not worth getting upset about. So if you know that you've got really good control over your own dogs and their obedience is really good, and you're confident that your dogs are gonna listen to you, don't worry so much about what other people's dogs are doing. Yes, it's annoying, yes, it's a nuisance, but if your dogs are well behaved and your dogs are listening to you and your dogs are doing as they're told, you shouldn't have any issues. So it really isn't worth getting upset about. I liken this to driving. So if you're a confident driver and you know that you know how to drive, there's going to be loads of other drivers on the road that you're going to spot when you're out driving your car, and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, they have no idea how to drive, they're not very good at it, and look how dangerous they're being on this road. Now, because you're confident at driving, you know that they're not going to be an issue to you because you keep your distance and you know what you're doing. So it's the same kind of mentality that you want to have when you're walking your dog, is that as long as you know that you're in control of your dog and you know what you're doing and you're feeling confident about it, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. So what I'm trying to say is, if somebody else's dog runs over to you and your dog, don't swear at that person, don't shout, don't get upset, don't tell them to get the dog on the lead, because at the end of the day, they're not going to do that, because if they could, they would have done it in the first place. Hey,
are they all right, the dog?
Yeah, they're fine, mate, yeah. Magic, come here, mate. As long as you've got control over your dogs, there's no problems. So what are you supposed to do if you haven't got control over your dog and you don't necessarily know what you're doing, and maybe your dog's got some behavioral issues? Well, to be honest, you've just got to be a little bit smarter about where you're taking your dog. If you think there's going to be other dogs that are going to run over to you, and if it's a place that's happened to you in the past, just don't take your dog there anymore. So just think about where you're going, and don't go to places that are going to be super, super tight and you haven't got anywhere to go. And if another dog starts running over to you, you're just pinned in the corner and you kind of have to let it happen. I like to go to places that are going to give me good field of vision, especially if I'm walking dogs that are going to be a little bit nervous and they're just kind of learning the ropes a little bit, and maybe that we're in the early stages of that dog's training. I'm going to go to places very similar to where I am now. So you can see all around me, there is just loads and loads of space, and there's dogs over here. So right behind me, somewhere over there, there's a couple of dogs running around. I don't know if you can see them, but they're really far away from us, and if they want to, they might try and run over to us, but I can just walk this way and they're not going to be an issue. That's the kind of places that you really want to start going to, is if you've got a dog that, let's say, doesn't like other dogs running over to them, you can't be going to places where that's going to be a possibility, because at the end of the day, your dog's going to have a hard time, you're going to have a hard time, it's going to be stressful, you're not going to have fun, they're not going to have fun, and it's just all completely unnecessary and easily avoided if you just don't go to places like that. And I get it, you're probably thinking, why should my dog suffer? Why should we not be able to go to the places that everybody else's dogs get to go to? Why are we supposed to be shunned in the corner and, you know, hiding away from the world? That's not what I'm saying that you should be doing. I'm just saying you can go to these places, But there's plenty of places out there that you can have a lovely walk with your dog, that if you need to, you can avoid being approached by other dogs. Actually, it's quite easy to avoid other dogs. I'm in this public park right now, and I haven't really had any dogs run over to us. We had one earlier, and that was about it. And I've seen loads of dogs around. I'm just not walking anywhere near them because I don't want them to bother us. And there's nothing to say that you wouldn't be able to eventually get your dog to these places, but what you have to make sure, your obedience is fantastic, and the way that your dog feels and thinks around other dogs is going to be acceptable for another dog to run over to them, because like I said earlier, it's going to happen. There are going to be times when you take your dog out, and it's going to be a time when everybody's trying to take the dog out at the same time. If you know there's going to be loads of people coming out, just avoid that walk. Give your dog the crazy woodland walk or that lovely walk in that park that you wanted to go to for a long time. You just got to wait. If your dog's not ready for that kind of stuff, it's just not going to be a good idea to take them there. So it's important to pick where you go wisely, and also the time that you go wisely as well. So in summary, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your dog has got fantastic obedience. They walk nicely on a lead, and their recall is 10 out of 10 if you are going to let them off the lead in these places. The second thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you're picking the places that you go wisely. Go to a place that you know, that you can see all around, and if you need to move, you can move. Then you've got to remember to think about the times that you're going, times and day. So time and day is super important. If your dog's still kind of getting used to this kind of stuff, don't go at a time of day on a day that it's going to be super, super busy. I get some places that you're going to want to walk your dog are convenient for you. Maybe they're closer to you, or they're just places that you prefer. But if it's not going to be suitable for your dog and it keeps causing issues, you need to stop going there. So all in all, you're not going to be able to control other people's dogs. You're not necessarily going to be able to avoid other dogs running over to you all the time. Most cases, you're just going to have a dog that's running over to you and it just wants to say hello. It's actually quite rare that a dog's just going to run over to you to attack. Look at you sitting on there. That's quite a small little perch. So with that being said, if the dog is just running over to you to say hello, all you need to do is keep it moving. You just need to call your dog, keep walking, call your dog again if they've stopped. Keep going if they're off the lead, and if they're on a lead, just tell them to walk by your side and just keep steaming on past. Before you know it, the dog's going to be gone and that whole situation would be over. What you mustn't do is stand there and go, hey, excuse me, can you come and get your dog? And you're standing there and now the dog's running around in circles around you and it's just this massive scene. If you just kept on walking, you would have avoided that whole situation entirely. If you keep walking, what you'll notice is that most dogs, as soon as you get quite far away from their owner, they're going to realize that they're quite far away from their owner, and they're going to turn around and they're going to run towards them. Worst case is that the dog does just continue to follow you, and I've had this before in the past, and usually all I do is I actually turn around, I put my dog sort of in a position where they're going to be behind me a little bit or just away to the side, so I'm in between my dog and that dog, and I'm going to look that dog in the eye and I'm going to make a sound. So I'm going to go ah, ah, or ch, like that. I'm going to put my hand out and I'm going to take one step forwards towards the dog. Most of the time when dogs are running over to you, it's almost like they haven't realized that there's a human there. They're so fixated on your dog that a lot of the time they haven't even seen that you're there. So as soon as you then make a sound and you sort of make your presence known by putting your hand out and going forwards like that, the dog's like, oh my goodness, there's a person here. And most of the time, those dogs run away. Now, there is a worst case scenario, and that is that a dog might run over to you and your dog and be aggressive. Now that is super rare, and it's happened to me once in her lifetime. So the likeliness that it's going to happen to you is slim, especially if you're taking all of these things that I've just been talking about into account, and you're picking where you're going wisely and you're trying to avoid dogs as best as you can in these places that you're going. But if that does happen to you, the best thing that you can possibly do is have a spare lead or just your dog's lead in your pocket. And when that is happening, you're going to take the lead out, you're going to get underneath the dog's neck, and you're going to go through the handle, and then you're going to create a slip. Now you've got control of the other dog, so you can just take that dog back to its owner. What you absolutely don't want to do if a dog's coming over and it is actually trying to attack you or your dog, you don't want to be trying to kick it, punch it, or hit it, or do anything like that, because all that's going to do is aggravate it even more, and it's just going to make the situation so much worse. So the best thing for you to do is try and get control of that dog if you can. Oh, she's so beautiful. Oh. So that's exactly how I avoid other dogs running over to me and my dogs and just ruining my day when I'm out on walks. I'm just going to make sure that I've got 100% control over the dogs that I'm with, and I make sure that I feel super confident about where I'm going, and I don't have any issues doing that. So hopefully that's giving you guys some ideas on how you're going to try to avoid this kind of stuff happening to you moving forward, and really start having some more enjoyable walks, because that's what's important, right? Now, this video was actually inspired by somebody that asked me a question about this topic on Instagram. So if you guys have any questions that you would like me to answer, do head over to Instagram and ask me on there, and I will try my best to make a video just like this one talking about whatever it is that you're asking me. So good luck with your training, guys, and I'll see you in a bit. All right. Oh, magic coming.